Hey, peeps, listen up.
What's up? You're on moving out of this neighborhood?
You gotta get your asses downtown for the Downtown Brown. That's what's up.
Come down to the club.
All you need is management.
All you need is management.
Open your mind, your body will follow. Downtown Brown is playing their last show on August 6th.
The manager says the next step, definitely cut a record.
In Detroit after 21 years. Downtown Brown is gonna make your mother effing bodies rock. Y'all gotta check that out. Downtown Brown, be there. Tell them Chili D sent you.
Hey, Chili, my man, what's happening?
I haven't talked to you in a fucking long time, bro.
Yeah, dude.
Thanks for being on here.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah, cool. I'm here with Vic Victor of the Koffin Kats, someone that I've known for quite a number of years. And my name is Neil Patterson. This is my internet program called SUPcast, SUPcast, as in What's Up Cast. And I'm stoked because me and this dude kind of came up together, grew up together. I don't know. I don't know. Are we men now?
Yeah. I mean, my hair's fallen out, so I think I've reached some level of adulthood.
Yeah, here we are. Like, yeah, I got underneath all this, I got a big ass forehead, bro. It's getting a little thin, but you know, just comb it forward. That's the thing I'm doing lately.
Yeah, and keep telling myself that minoxidil works.
Are you actually using that shit?
I try it and then I think it works, and then after a while I get discouraged and then I go back to it. It's been an on-off thing for the last 3 years. So
I feel like you have to be very regimented.
Yeah, you do, and it's like taking vitamins. You know, you start doing it, and then you fall off the wagon for a while, and then you're like, oh, I should take vitamins, and then
Yeah, I do the same thing with my antidepressants. I take them and then I stop taking them, and I'm like, I probably should take those. And my girlfriend's like, have you been taking that shit? But yeah, in and out. But hey, good to see you, dude. So we got the show coming up August 6th. It was a shot in the dark, bro, when I hit you up, because I was thinking, like, what Detroit bands don't play in Detroit every single fucking weekend? And
yeah, it worked out great because I was actually talking to the dudes, and I was like, I'd like to at least get a summertime show in, because we always do our Thanksgiving Eve show. It's like an annual thing we've been doing for like the last 12 years at Token Lounge. And that's like always the guaranteed local show. And then sometimes, we were doing like the Black Christmas thing. And so, but otherwise we don't really have any other shows that we had planned or anything. So it worked out awesome when you hit me up.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's funny, too, because when I hit you up, the show was going to be the 20th anniversary of our first record that we put out in 2002. And then I got this bug up my ass, and I'm just like, you know what? I want to do something different. So it's Downtown Brown's last show. And, which is wild, which is something I'm actually really excited about. People have been sending me like eulogy type DMs, and they're like, don't do it. But I feel somewhat trapped in a box by the Downtown Brown thing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I was curious, if you don't mind me asking here while we're on the podcast, what was it that after 2 decades that you've decided that it's time to put the nail in the coffin per se and move forward with other things?
I don't know. It's a multitude of reasons. I think most of it has to do with being just an edgy, shitty person in my 20s and just talking a whole bunch of shit and like writing these songs that I don't necessarily identify with anymore. Because what I was just talking to the Metro Times guy today, like, what's shocking anymore? And what was shocking 20 years ago, is it relevant? Is that who I am? I don't know. It's kind of an identity crisis thing. And I
can understand that.
Right. And I don't know if necessarily, it might be one of those things where I hang up Downtown Brown for 4 years and get bored and decide to do some Downtown Brown shows just between you and I. But I have an idea for a new thing that I really want to do. And I kind of want to like pivot and just kind of reinvent me a little bit. Because I've been doing content aside from Downtown Brown for like the last 3 years. And it's actually getting to the point where it's starting to outperform my actual thing that I've been working 20 years at, which is like fucked up to me because, I mean, y'all have like videos on YouTube that have 1 million views, right? I mean, you got to have one, right? Koffin Kats. There's a graveyard tree.
I'm terrible with following that stuff, and yeah, there's like a fan made video of Graveyard Tree with like Corpse Bride, and I think that does very well, but we have no association with the creation of it or anything.
Right, so but 1 million
somebody's getting that money, so
right, but 1 million people saw something that you made, and that's dope. But that didn't happen to me until this year, and it happened me making a joke. It happened doing nothing involving music. So how fucking weird is that?
It never ceases to amaze me that it's the dumbest things will be the things that we have this saying within the band that's like, it's going to be something dumb that actually like pushes us over the edge, and as far as like with people paying attention to us and whatnot. And I mean, it just goes to show that one of our most requested songs is Maneater.
Yes,
and that was just an off the cuff cover that we did, like I don't know, like 10 years ago.
It's like your Limp Bizkit Faith.
Right. Yeah, I'm like, whatever, if it's bringing people out to the shows, sure.
Dude, Hall & Oates are the shit. Like, a lot of people are into this nostalgic, like, haha, Hall & Oates, so cheeky, so 80s. But if you listen to Daryl Hall sing, like, that motherfucker can sing, dude.
Oh yeah, we were all stoked because on this last tour that we were doing, we did a run with Reverend Horton Heat, and when we got the initial tour list, it said that we were playing at the the House of Oates, the house of Daryl's house.
No way.
Yeah, and so we're like, oh shit,
yes,
great. And it turns out that the tour listing got updated and that got moved off the roster and all that.
But
God damn it, man, how cool would it have been to do a Maneater cover in Daryl's house?
Yeah, because he does that show out of his house where he has people come over. So he must be like homies with Jim, right?
I guess so. I didn't really ask much about it. I was just like, oh damn, that's not on the tour list anymore.
That's a bummer, bro. You were that close, dude.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the early 2000s, because the Koffin Kats were one of those bands where we were all playing these small little DIY punk shows together, but y'all had the idea, let's get the fuck out of Detroit. And what year did that happen? What prompted that? And did you guys start doing like a shitload of shows right off the bat? Because it seemed like you were here and then you were just gone.
Yeah. So, yeah, basically the thing is that, I played in a number of different bands before Koffin Kats, local and stuff. And always having the idea that I want to be on the road. Like, I set my whole life up to just go on the road. Yeah. And, once Koffin Kats formed, it was the three of us had the full intentions of let's get out on the road. So it was June of 2003 that Eric, Tommy, and I got together, which is the current lineup, got together, and we started doing shows locally and stuff. Like, we were playing at the Labyrinth a lot, playing at the Logger House a lot, and Eric had left the band. He was in the band for about the first 3 months, and then he left. And then our buddy Damien came in. And when we started practicing with Damien said, "Hey, let's make a goal that it's like July, or it's like summertime 2004. Or 2003. Let's make it a goal that we're in California by the summer of 2004."
I love it.
And so I got on AOL and I started like messaging people. You know how you could go on AOL and you could find people in different cities that were into interests, like things that you liked.
This is pre-MySpace.
Yeah, pre-MySpace.
Wow.
So I got on AOL and I would type in, I figured out a tour routing that kind of made sense. And then I went on AOL and I would instant message people cold, but I would type in things that I would type in psychobilly. And that way I knew that, like, hey, this person might have an idea of a club we could play or knows bands locally that we could play with that are kind of in a similar vein as us. And so I managed to book a whole tour by just cold contacting people, and then people would hook me up with other people or recommend other bands and stuff, because I had no idea. The internet was way different back then. Yeah. And so I set the whole tour up through AOL, and it's crazy because some of the people that we met on that very first tour we're still friends with and have contacts with and whatnot. And yeah.
That's fucking amazing, because the story I always tell is that MySpace was what did it, was what gave us the ability to cold contact other bands in other cities. But y'all were doing that pre-fucking MySpace through AOL. That's insane, dude. Yeah,
I remember being in Tucson, Arizona at a buddy's house. We had a day off, and I kept hearing all about all this MySpace stuff. So finally I created an account, and I was like, all right, well, I should probably make a band account. And then that helped book a lot of shows. And then right around that time, we actually started working with a booking agency. And so we were with a booking agency for a good 5 or 6 years. And then we parted ways with them and then went pretty much DIY. Yeah, and that's something I noticed. You do all in-house booking, all in-house printing too, right? Yeah. So we needed something to make money in between touring. So pre-COVID, like about 5 years pre-COVID, we started a screen printing and embroidery shop. And so when we get off the road, I would just go right into the shop and start printing for us and printing for friends' bands and things. Well, that was going great up until the whole COVID thing hit. And then all of our business went right out the window because it was all touring acts. Yeah. And so we ended up shutting that all down and finding work elsewhere. And we've never bothered to open it back up since. I still will print some of our shirts because we have the equipment still, but it's just life got too busy after the COVID thing happened, and now we're all in different paths as far as working outside of touring. Yeah, and I think that's a misconception that I definitely want to talk to you about, because from the outside looking at y'all, you're like the most blue collar, hardworking motherfuckers, because you're going from road dogging it to doing these crazy manual labor jobs. You want to, and real quick. And this is the thing. I always thought that once a band gets popular, that the music just pays all of their bills. So did I for the first 2 years of doing this. And then I was like, oh, I see how it's going to be. So explain that. So we're in a really actual fortunate situation now, because Eric and I, and then Joey Drink Tickets, our road dude who sells our merch and everything, he actually owns an irrigation company. He was on the road with us for years in the 2000s, and then left to go start this irrigation company. Yeah. And we would work with him off and on in between tours. And then once COVID hit and we shut the shop down, we're like, hey, Joey, can we come work full time for you? And we've been doing that in between tours ever since. And it works out great, because when we do go on tour, he just comes with us. And it's generally, we tour heavier in the winter months when you can't put sprinkler systems in the ground in Michigan. So it works out well. But there's the only time that we've been able to be like, well, we live on rock and roll is when we're touring over 250 days out of the year, because we were constantly on the road. And we did that pretty solid for about 6 years, where it was like we'd come home for a week and then be right back out. And yeah, I mean, we were going to Europe twice a year during that point in time. We've been to Europe 13 times now.
Wow.
And we've been across the country. I've lost count how many times, but yeah, we're close to like the 3,000 show mark. And we still work day jobs. So
yeah, because when I started working with the dude from Fishbone, I remember I was at my catering job and I called him on the phone and I'm like, Norwood, what are you doing? He's like, I'm painting houses. And I'm like, oh, you're painting your apartment. Cool. He's like, no. He's like, no, I'm painting houses. And a part of like my brain and my heart broke a little bit. I'm just like, okay, so this is like legendary bass player dude, Fishbone, the world famous legendary Fishbone. And even he's got to do side gigs. It's like a part of me was like, that's fucked up. But a part of me, it also clicked in my brain. It's like, oh, like you're going to have to fucking hustle when you're not doing the music thing, because the music thing pays for itself, but it's not going to pay everybody's bills when you're not doing the music thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's always the mentality for us is like, we go out and we know what our bottom line is. And we know that when we go out, at least the tour expenses are going to be covered, but you never know what you're going to come back with, as far as how far in the green you're going to be.
Right.
It's just always the risk that you take going out. And it was, we were stoked when venues started opening back up, because we thought, oh man, people are going to come out with a fury, once all these venues open back up from the pandemic thing. And then what we found was, and as far as our opinions are, if you want to come out. If you don't feel safe, we totally understand. No judgment. But we realized like, oh, wow, still a bunch of people at that point in time weren't coming out. So once all the venues started opening back up and touring started happening again, it was slowly easing back into it. And we were like, oh shit, things are not as amazing as we thought they were going to be, but it's starting to get a lot better now.
Okay, so you're noticing the attendance is starting to increase a little bit.
It's starting to pick back up now.
But it seemed a little rickety at first.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially that we hit the road right when the Omicron things came out. The new variation or whatever.
Was that last summer?
Yeah, that was last winter?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, because that scared the shit out of everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but fuck, man, it was weird. How did you? Okay, this might be too intrusive of a question, but going from working so hard and playing so many tour dates and then going to where you're mid-pandemic and you can't do shit, like, did that fuck with your brain like it fucked with mine?
Yeah. So when it first came down, we thought, all right, cool. This is going to last a month or two. But then as we got into like 4 months of no shows and we had tours booked, we were like 3 days away from leaving on tour when everything came down with lockdowns and all that stuff. And we ended up having to cancel the tour because all the venues were like, we don't know what to tell you. We're sorry. And we're like, we don't know what's going on. Okay, I guess we're just going to call it. And we kept trying to rebook the tours. And it got to a point where everybody was kind of like, we don't have any answers. We're just going to have to get rid of the shows and, we'll let you know when we're booking again. So that was like, oh, this shit's real. And so it went to like, all right, well, we know we'll play shows someday, but when all that happened, there was no answers for anybody.
Right.
You had no idea how long it was going to be. And we thought, hey, well, I guess we'll use this time to be productive. And I was mentally telling myself like, oh, I'll write so much music in all this downtime. I didn't do shit. Like I just couldn't get in the vibe of it. And it wasn't towards the end that we actually like got back into it and started writing and recorded an EP and put 6 new tracks out and everything. But I did not utilize it as much as I thought I was going to utilize that downtime. And it's just because I couldn't get excited about it,
Yeah, at first I convinced myself, I'm like, oh, I'll just play music online and stream. And it was kind of cool when everyone had free money. I was doing the streaming thing, and people, it kind of saved my ass. I would just
I couldn't believe it. I was able to get unemployment for the first time ever being a musician. And so like that was helping things out a little bit, but that didn't last very long because I ended up going back into actual work and everything.
Right. Well, that's good because I just remember being like, it'll be fine. I'll just make music online, and like it kind of popped off for a little bit. I'm like, I can do this. And then like 4, 5, 6 months into it, I'm just like, I'm losing my fucking mind. I'm stuck in this fucking apartment in Long Beach, California. It smells like cat piss. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire for real. People are getting shot outside my front door. And my girlfriend was really afraid of COVID. So, and I was kind of afraid too. Like I hadn't gotten it yet. And I think once I got it is when I was like, oh, okay, it's not going to kill me, Did you get it?
I don't think so. We tested like crazy when we were out on the road and everything. And I had a weird fever one night, but I wasn't no test. I've never had a positive test.
Wow.
So I don't know. I know. So I can't officially say if I've ever gotten it or not because I've never tested positive.
Yeah, I got it 3 fucking times.
And believe me, we were definitely in situations. We were definitely in clubs where people reported, oh, well, everybody got it at this show. And we're like, how the hell are we getting away from it? Because the weird thing is out of the 4 of us, none of us have ever tested positive. And it's not crazy. For lack of testing. We were testing while we were on the road and stuff, and we never got it. We never officially got it. Like I should say, we may have had it and not realized it, but I mean, like there's people like you don't realize how many people close talk to you until you start becoming more aware of like, like, oh shit, I don't want to get sick or anything like that. I've had literally drunk people talking right into my mouth where you can feel like the spit going in your mouth. And you're like, wow, I'm going to get sick for sure, but yeah. So maybe we all got it early on and never realized it. I don't know. Yeah. From my
understanding, the people who got it but didn't get vaccinated like never get it again. And I've gotten all the shots and I've gotten it 3 fucking times. But I don't know what to believe about any of it.
Yeah, we all got shotted up because some of the venues, in order to go on tour, some of the venues were actually requiring, the artist, be all carded up and everything. So we were like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, when I joined the band Reagan Youth for a couple of years. I was the singer. Yeah. It was weird. But we played Chicago, and it was like a bunch of people, like the entire crowd had masks. It was odd. Have you played any shows where like everyone in the audience had a mask on?
Yeah, Red Flag in St. Louis. That was the one where everybody was mandatory, had to have masks on. But otherwise, most venues, it was at that point in time, it was just choice. And now on this last tour that we did, it was, you see probably about a quarter of the crowd would have masks, if any.
Yeah, it seems like no one gives a shit anymore. But at this Chicago show, I jumped in the audience and everyone scattered. It was like, yeah. Because I was like, why is everyone so far away from the stage? And then I jumped off the stage and everyone was like, get the fuck away from this dude. And I was like, oh, they're scared. Okay. Yeah. I get it now. And I actually got COVID on that run. So it was a good thing they scattered.
Yeah.
But it's the after times. But in the before times, let's go back to the early days of touring. Like you said you guys got with an agent. Was it relatively shortly after you started doing it? But what I want to know is, was there a moment where you're like, this is working? Is there like a specific moment where you're like, hey, we're like, this is actually working and we're doing this? Did that happen early on, or did that happen kind of like
so for the very first tour, we got like an $800 Ford E350, Econoline van, and made it all throughout, made it through the whole country. And we actually came back with some money in our pocket, and the van didn't break down. we lost the power steering pump in Toledo on our way into Michigan. But otherwise, so that once we did that first tour and there really wasn't any like major hangups or anything, we were just like full steam ahead. We're like, that was fucking awesome. Let's do this again. And we were fortunate enough that we hit right. We started touring and hit right at a time that, you know, any band with an upright bass was still pretty popular. And we were doing we did pretty well as far as like getting a fan base really early on. And so the tours generally at least broke even. And so that always kept us really pumped up to keep going back out on the road. And we were able to work jobs locally that allowed us to leave for a couple months at a time. And so we were really in really good situations with that. And, you know, when you're in it, you don't think about it as far as like, am I there yet? But, you know, the shows out west, like in California and stuff, those shows really started getting really good. And we definitely had hot markets, like St. Louis for a long time was really good. Chicago was really good. Like the Midwest was good to us. East Coast has always been hit and miss. But we still had really good markets that we knew that like going out on tour, we would definitely be coming back with, you know, some pocket change and whatnot. You know, there's always little moments in the career where it's like, we thought, oh shit, who knows what's going to happen next. And I remember getting a phone call from Machete Manufacturing. Now, Machete Manufacturing was owned by Rancid. And those were the guys where like all the punk rock shirts, all the Hellcat band shirts, everything you'd see in Hot Topic punk rock wise, they did a good they did a good amount of printing for all those bands. And they hit us up and they were like, hey, we'd like to, you know, do your guys' merchandise. And we thought, oh shit, this is it. Next step Hellcat or something like that. And, that never came to fruition, but we did work with Machete for a number of years. And that's when our shirts ended up in like Hot Topic. And so it felt like we made it because you could walk into any mall in the US and see our shirts on the wall.
That's
so we
sick.
thought, well, that was pretty cool. I mean, that lasted for like 6 months and then they were in the clearance bin. But you know, that was one of those first cool moments where you're like, oh man, we might be hitting big here. And you know, so we've always maintained like right from there and then kind of just maintained right there.
That's good though. So you never had any, did you ever have any like moments where you're become contemporaries with someone that used to be like, as far as like Jim, like Reverend Horton Heat?
Oh yeah.
How did that come along?
That'll, you know, we're still like fanboys at heart when it comes to being able to play with the bands that like we grew up looking up to and the bands that definitely help define our sound and all that. Like that never gets old. Like we've done a good number of tours with Reverend Horton Heat, and anytime we're out with them, it's still like me and Tommy will look each other on stage and be like, holy fuck, we're opening up for Reverend Horton Heat. You know, it never gets old, but yeah, like, and that was something that just organically kind of came about. Like we had done some festival shows playing with them, and their management reached out to us to, you know, go out from time to time on the road with them. And I'm sure we'll do another run next year or something.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Cause that's a good feeling when you become homies with the people that used to be your heroes, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, I know those guys are coming and doing a car show in Port Huron at the end of August, and I think Jim's going to use my amp. And I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. I got like an old Fender Blues DeVille amp, I believe he's going to be using.
Nice. So let's go back to when you were a kid. What made you pick up a musical instrument? Like what set the scene? Was it because we're about the same age, right? I'm 41.
Yeah, I'm 39.
Okay, so we're close.
Yeah, so I moved from Belleville to the Garden City area and at 8th grade. And that's when I really started playing guitar, and I met people who also played guitar, and then started going over to friends' houses, because I didn't live in like a suburban setup when I was growing up. I lived kind of rural in Belleville. And so I didn't like have like neighborhood friends or anything like that. And I really didn't have anybody to show me how to play guitar. So I didn't start taking guitar lessons till right about the 8th grade when I moved to Garden City. And I'm sure this is entertaining for people who are not from the Metro Detroit area, but this is all the Metro Detroit area.
I'm entertained.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
And so I believe it was 8th grade. I moved to Garden City, and by 9th grade, I was like trying to start little bands and stuff, and started going to Pharaoh's, where one of the first band, one of the first bands I ever saw at Pharaoh's was the Freeloaders.
No way.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's crazy, dude.
And then it's funny because watching you play guitar made me go, fuck, I'm never going to be that good at guitar. And, it's being at such a young age, and seeing you, who were close to my age, being like, look at that dude's like fucking light years ahead of me on this guitar. So I got discouraged with moments like that of playing guitar, and also like buying the Brian Setzer tapes and trying to learn how to play that style and everything, and be like, man, I just don't have this. But I always loved the upright bass, and that was from watching Beavis and Butthead and seeing Reverend Horton Heat videos on Beavis and Butthead, and then getting cable and having VH1, and then seeing Stray Cat videos. And I always thought the upright bass is so cool. And in like 98, 99, this band, The Living End, started actually getting radio play on like 89X, and they had an upright bass. So that was just solidifying like, hey, I really want to get an upright bass. And I also was thinking ahead as far as, if I get good at this instrument, it's not an instrument that everybody plays. So maybe in the future I'll have like maybe people will want me to be in their band or something, if they're looking for an upright bass player. So that was kind of what made me branch off and pick up the upright. And I got my first upright bass when I was like 17, after I worked a really crappy shift at the Westland Toys R Us during Christmas time. And it was just complete hell, but I needed to save up to buy this upright because I wanted to start a band with an upright bass.
Yeah. So when you were young and you started playing guitar, what made you want to be in a band? Because I try to think about that sometimes, because I was always, as soon as I picked up the fucking instrument, I'm like, let's get a band together. Like, I would get a band together with kids that couldn't even fucking play, just so I could do it. You think it was Beavis and Butthead? You think it was the years we were growing up and how prominent MTV and like actual rock stars were? Like, what was it?
I can tell you exactly when I realized I wanted to start playing music. Do you remember the radio station 99.5 Young Country?
No. Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, I do, but I don't.
So my youth growing up was a combination of listening to whatever the riff was playing and then hearing a lot of 99.5 Young Country. And that was always on the radio when you're in the parents' car and whatnot. Well, I was like, I don't want to hear this stupid country song. I remember it's so weird that I remember this, but it was Tim McGraw's Don't Take the Girl. And, hearing it for the 10th time that day, being in the car or whatever, I was like, Mom, I'm switching the radio station. And I switched over to 96.3, and they had just changed formats to the Planet 96.3.
I remember that.
The new alternative or whatever.
Yeah.
And in that day, I heard NoFX, Leave It Alone. I heard Bad Religion, 21st Century Digital Boy. And I heard Green Day, Basket Case. So within that one day, I was like, what is this? And this is why I'm still in Belleville at that point, where I didn't have any like cultural music experience beyond what was on the radio. And I had a shitty jean jacket with a Nirvana patch on the back of it at that point in time.
Love it.
But like, that was my first introduction to like punk rock. And there it was on the radio, you know, on the local, on Detroit radio, 96.3, you know, the Planet. And so I just went head over heels. I got a Green Day Dookie cassette tape. I got, for Christmas that year, I got Bad Religion, Stranger Than Fiction, which is one of my all-time favorite albums and one of the biggest influences on me as far as wanting to play music. And if you listen to Koffin Kats now, you can hear Bad Religion influence all over it, as far as with the harmonies and all that kind of stuff. That's
a great album. People dog that album because it was on a major label, but I fucking love that album.
I didn't. I whatever way good music can get to me, I didn't care about what label it was on at that point in time. I didn't even know that there were other Bad Religion CDs on, you know, smaller label or whatever, you know.
so it was the actual radio. It wasn't MTV. Like, you heard that shit on the radio.
I didn't have cable. I got cable shortly after that period of time. And that's when I discovered Beavis and Butthead and stuff like that. But yeah, it was the 96.3 changing radio formats. I think they changed over from like a rap station. I think it was the Fox or something.
Yeah, I remember it. I don't know. It's all melting together. The older I get, I used to be like fucking razor sharp, man, and now my brain's just kind of like mush. But dude, that's crazy. Yeah, Green Day Dookie was huge for me because I was a metal kid in middle school. I was like really into like Ride the Lightning, Metallica, and Megadeth, Hangar 18. What was it? Rust in Peace. And I was playing the guitar and I wanted to play all the Metallica shit. And then I heard Green Day, and I was like, oh shit, I can write songs like this. And I remember the song She, that song. And I remember listening to it and figuring it out really quickly and just being like, wow. Like, and that's when I started writing songs, is because it went from, all right, I'm emulating Kirk Hammett. Like, I want to learn how to solo. I want to learn how to play Hangar 18, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, Green Day, I'm like, I can do this. And I remember I had this guitar teacher, and he's like, write a song. He's like, he's like, here's how you stay in a key, and you just move these chords around and like chart it out. And I wrote like a punk song, and that was it. It was like 8th grade, dude. And
yeah. Then you remember Tri-City Music in Garden City?
No, I don't.
Okay, it was at like Ford Road and Middle Belt. It was this guitar shop where they had a bunch of used gear and whatnot, but they gave lessons out of the back of it. So I took 3 lessons, and I took 3 guitar lessons. After I figured out that the guy was teaching me tab, I learned how to read tab, and then I realized he was just teaching me out of a book that I could just teach myself.
Yeah,
for not $30 a pop.
Exactly.
So I took those 3 lessons, and then I learned how to basically, play the bar chords and all that. And that's why I started writing songs right at that point in time. And it's weird too, because like some of the songs that I wrote back then, I actually went on to later become like Koffin Kat songs.
Yeah, dude, I use riffs from when I was in fucking middle school. So like maybe not middle school, but definitely high school. There's some high school riffs that I like regurgitated into Downtown Brown shit. Just because back then I was like, this is cool. And like, then years later, I'm like, I can use this. Just plop it in there somewhere. You just keep recycling, But
so
that's fun. So, okay. So Garden City. Now, did you develop an appreciation for like the country music and the upright bass because of the rural kind of Belleville thing? Like, did you hear?
No, I hate. No.
Okay.
If anything, that would make me loathe country music. But these days, Waylon Jennings is one of my all-time favorite artists. But I love old country, like classic, 60s, 70s country and stuff. But no, it really was. It was seeing the Reverend Horton Heat video on Beavis and Butthead that I was like, oh man, that big cello thing looks really cool and it sounds really cool. And yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Okay. So it was just when you were in Belleville, that was the young country. It was the radio bullshit.
Yeah. It wasn't. I really didn't start discovering music till I was right before I moved out of there. And like I said, it was like I'm trying to put the timeline together. It was like 6th, 7th grade that I really started discovering music beyond what was just being played on the radio.
Now, the flash forward to like 2000ish, you got an upright bass.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, because when I first met you, you were in a band called Solace Saloon with Drew Bardo.
Yeah.
Now, was your mentality back then just, I just want to play in a band with anybody? When did that shift for you where you're like, I want to do my own thing?
So, yeah, that was a great time playing with Drew and those guys. The Solace Saloon thing was a lot of fun. And it was cool because it got me into venues before I could, legally be in some of those venues. And so I was able to get downtown and kind of start developing relationships with other musicians and other bands and stuff like that, and with clubs. And I had a great run with Solace Saloon, but it after a while, I definitely started to feel like I have these songs that definitely would not work with Solace Saloon. But I have these songs that I'd like to start doing, and I have this idea for a band that I'd like to start doing. So there was a couple different versions of me playing upright with a band before Koffin Kats came along. There was Mephisto Mafia and V8 Nightmare. And then finally, I just ended up wanting a band where I could kind of take the helm and go towards what vision I had. And that's when Koffin Kats came along.
So Koffin Kats is your baby.
Yeah. It was initially my baby and then became mine and Tommy's baby, pretty much since the inception. And then, like I said, Eric, who's been our drummer the longest, he was with us in the very beginning when we started writing some of the first songs. And then we had, he left for a while. Then our buddy Damien came in for a few years. He was on the first couple albums. And then Damien started doing a lot of schooling to where touring was not conducive with that. So one of Tommy's old bandmates from the Wayne area, this dude Ketch, he came in and he was on the third album. He did a number of tours with us. And then Ketch was like, hey guys, I'm going to go have a real career. And we're like, all right, dude, see you later. And then Eric at that point in time popped back in, and we just happened to cross paths, and we're like, hey dude, you still playing drums? You want to go on tour? And he was like, yeah, I do. Let's do it. And so that's what it's been ever since. And then Tommy, around, 2009, 2010, Tommy left the band for a number of years, because he had to focus on stuff at home, and he had the obligations that were keeping him home. And then I think it's been like 7 years now he's been back in the band. So
that's beautiful. How did that feel when he came back?
It just felt right. It felt like picking right up where we left off. It's always weird when you try to have a band without a core member in it. People are always going to be asking, and you're always going to have the comments of, well, it was better when so-and-so was in the band, or I like this lineup of the band, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I get it. I'm guilty of thinking the same thing about certain bands and whatever. So I get it, dudes. And so when he came back, it was like a sigh of relief, like, all right, thanks. Now I don't have to put up with that bullshit anymore. But I mean, the guys that took his spot, our buddy Ian and then John Kay, they're super talented musicians in their own right, and they did a great job filling in and everything. But when Tommy was ready to come back, it was like, all right, dude, let's do it.
Well, you guys have a chemistry together. There's he has a really a fun vibe, and I feel like you guys vibe off each other really well. Like the energy, it's like your brothers up there, Yeah,
I mean, we have this joke that like Tommy, Eric, and I, and Joey Drink Tickets there, we see each other every day. We see each other more than we see our wives.
Right.
And like,
I know
it's been that way for a long time. I make a joke. I'm like, hey, we could be on stage together, or we can be in somebody's front yard putting a sprinkler system in. That's how our day is. Usually, that's how our normal day is. So we just have this this family bond, and it's it's the closest thing you can get to like having blood harmony or whatever.
Yeah, I have similar feelings with musicians that I've had in my life, that even though we may not be playing music, there's a closeness there, and when I do play music with these people, it's effortless. You don't have to really think about it. You don't have to force anything. It just it's like what you said. It feels right,
Well, yeah, and the biggest thing too, and at this point, there are younger bands that come up and ask like, "Hey, you guys got any advice or anything like that?" I'm like, here's my big rule is like, if your band doesn't have chemistry, don't even bother booking a tour, because it's going to fall apart. Something bad is going to happen. Somebody's going to leave mid-tour or whatever. You have to have chemistry within the band. That's the hardest. Talent comes second to chemistry. If you have chemistry, you can get by on that, and then the talent will come later.
Yeah.
But that's the hardest thing. That's the hardest part about putting a band together. That's why I only ever wanted to have a 3-piece, because adding a 4th member in there would, in my thought, would throw a wrench into everything. But it was, we were always very fortunate. I mean, and now it's like, nobody argues. Everyone's just kind of like, hey, you cool with this? Yeah, I'm cool with it. And generally, what's not cool, because it just never comes up, because we're all on the same wavelength as far as, yeah, we'll do that show, or nah, that's not really what we're thinking. Nah, there's never any arguments. Everything's just really easy going. And it's been that way for a long time, and we're very fortunate to have that.
That's beautiful, man. So this is my question. It's like, 2003 is when Koffin Kats started, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going on 20 years now, through all of the rickety times where there were member changes, where you did have to find other people. What is driving you to continue, even though it becomes daunting? Like it's obnoxious, having to constantly switch members. And I could tell you this from firsthand experience, like there's been so many fucking members in downtown Brown, but there was something in me that's just like, keep doing this, because this is you. This is the most important thing in your life. You have to keep doing this. Do you feel similarly? And what drives that? Like, what's the motivation?
We didn't want to get left behind. We didn't want to lose the momentum. Ever since that first couple tours, when we went out west and we went cross country, and we could see that there was excitement in the crowds, we didn't want to take a year off, because we didn't know if those people would be back, or if people would remember us. So it was just always get out on the road. You have to get back out as soon as possible. Have to release music as soon as we can afford it. And it was just always go, 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 go. Only now does it actually feel like it's okay to sit back a little bit and take a month or 2 off without playing a show, because it feels like we finally established ourselves. But it's always been a mentality of, we have a lot of dues to pay. Let's get out there. Let's get out there and just do it. And then even at the 10-year mark, we were like, this is when we're really going to hit it heavy. And that's when we were at around that time. That's when we were doing like 250 shows a year.
Wow.
And that's when we were like, yeah, we're living on rock and roll. And we're like, yeah, we're paying the bills, but we're playing shows nonstop. And that's just how it had to be. And if we still wanted to live on rock and roll, that's what it would still have to be, is playing, that many shows out of the year. But after a while, the problem is it naturally kind of slowed down to where we weren't doing that many a year, because you could only go to Denver so many times before they're like, hey, we're not going to keep giving you this guarantee, because you're here every, 3 months or whatever.
Right.
And any city. And so we're like, shit, we got to actually spread things out. And, so we made a decision, and everything that's when we made the decision to start the printing company. And so we could take longer breaks between tours, so we weren't out there oversaturating the markets as much. And so that's kind of the schedule that we've been on now for about the last 7 years, is taking time off between tours, and then, hitting key markets no more than twice a year.
That's smart. Now, this is my question. Have you And I know the answer already. Have you taken anything in your life more seriously or worked harder doing anything than this band?
This has been the thing that this has been the thing I've been most dedicated to since the birth of my son.
Oh, you're a dad.
Yeah. So
how old's your son?
I mean, and that naturally, comes into play where it's, so this Koffin Kats has been my baby since its inception, and it's always been, as we got older, it wasn't as easy, but when we were younger, it was very easy to have the mentality of this comes first. This is all that matters. Relationships be damned, work be damned, or whatever, jobs be damned. We're getting out there. We're playing. And as we've gotten older and matured and we all got married and stuff like that, then you learn about checks and balances, gives and takes to make life happy.
Right. So now would you say it's a little bit more balanced? Like it's not just all the band. There's other priorities there, obviously. Yeah.
But there's not a day goes by that between Eric, Tommy, and I, and we consider Joey our fourth member, because he's always been there with us. There's not a day that goes by that we don't eat, sleep, breathe some form of Koffin Kats, whether it's talking about the next move or talking about, this upcoming show, or talking about just, hey, when we're going to get together to practice. There's always some form of Koffin Kat business that happens every day.
Yeah. And you're in trenches digging shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of what also keeps the momentum is it's not like I'm away from a guitar player and drummer and I have to make phone calls to say, hey, you guys want to hang out sometime this week and maybe do some shows or something, or, we're with each other every day. So it just naturally, it's just a part of life. And that was the weird thing with COVID, where it was that was the first time since the creation of the band where it was man, it feels just wrong not doing something related to the band.
Yeah. And you weren't with your guys. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it's an odd thing because, even knowing the Fishbone guys, back to those guys again, those dudes don't hang out when they're not doing gigs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we have and it's not lost on us. We have a very weird, and we're very grateful.
It's beautiful
for what we have.
Yeah,
because it's not normal whatsoever for bands to see each other as much as we do, unless you're, a family band that's all brothers or something like that, I guess.
Right,
but
the Jonas Brothers. I bet those dudes. I bet you see your dudes more than those dudes see each other.
Yeah,
for sure.
But that's what I attribute to our longevity thus far, and continuing to keep pushing forward is just that we have that. And those guys are equally as into it as I've always been.
That's fucking awesome, dude. Yeah. And that being said, I think if I had a relationship like that with two other dudes, I wouldn't be stopping Downtown Brown. The thing is what Downtown Brown became is me and, whoever I could get to do it. And honestly, it's not as rewarding when, I don't know, it's harder because there's not that intimacy. And I don't mean intimacy in a weird way. I mean there's you guys know each other deeply,
Yeah.
You're fucking brothers, and that has to count for something when you're traveling together, working together, making music together. It's dare I say the word special? It's special, bro.
Believe me, it's never been lost on any of us, and we're forever grateful that we have it. And it's just like I said, it's one of those things that keeps us going, is because we're all motivating each other to keep it going. And yeah.
That's dope, dude.
Going back to Downtown Brown, though, I actually have a great Downtown Brown story.
Oh, okay.
From the early days. So do you remember Desirable Discs when they used to have the in-stores?
Yeah. Well, there was, how many Desirable Discs were there? There was one on Michigan Avenue, Dearborn. There was one on
Michigan
Telegraph.
Avenue, Dearborn. There was Telegraph. And then there was Garden City.
Ford. Was it Ford or Michigan Avenue?
Ford Road.
Okay. That's where I saw you working at the Ford Road one once.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember it was right around that period of time. I remember there was a Downtown Brown show at the Michigan Avenue location. and you guys had all set up, and your amp head took a shit, and you did the whole show a cappella, like your voice being the guitar.
No way.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, so the band played and everything. So, bass and drums, and then you would sing, and then you would then sing the part of the guitar. And I thought that was the most coolest fucking thing. And I was like, that dude is just talented.
Oh, thanks, bro. Yeah. I would do dumb shit like that.
Yeah.
That's funny. But I was one of those people. In fact, the Save the Vegetables footage that I found with the 2003 version of the Koffin Kats is just a little clip that I found. But my guitar broke at the end of our set, and I did the same fucking thing. I did the a cappella shit.
Yeah. Funny thing about that Save the Vegetables is it's great because I actually, hang on one second.
Yeah, do your thing.
All right, where'd my headphones go? I actually have a tape, and I think I have two tapes from both years that we did it. But this tape, it says Koffin Kats versus Detroit Police.
Oh,
and back then, I forget the dude's name, but he would film our shows, and Koffin Kats, Detroit Contemporary, Save the Vegetables, 8/30/03. So at that Save the Vegetables, the police came and broke it up, but Eric was playing drums, and remember how that stage was set up where the drum riser you set up kind of high so you could see over the fence.
Yeah.
Well, Eric was playing drums during that show, and the cops had shown up because of a noise complaint, and the cops couldn't get in to where the event was. They were on the outside of the fence, and they kept trying to get his attention. And he's like looking out the corner of his eye, like, I don't see you. We're going to finish this set. And so like they're throwing shit at him to get his attention. Like, hey, knock it off. What are you guys doing? So yeah, I don't remember if the show got broken up completely or what happened with it, but the cops did come in and like bust a noise violation.
Yeah, okay, so that was 03. The footage that I posted recently was 04. It was the year, because we actually got to play, because we played the old Miami that year in 03. Okay, the show got moved last minute. So y'all were probably like the last band to play before
that would
shut
make
it down.
sense, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, those are good times. So you have that on tape, huh?
Yeah, yep.
I love that he ignored the fucking cops and just kept playing. So who was the drummer in 04? That was Damien, right?
That was Damien, yep.
Okay, because that dude did look different in the footage than Eric. So yeah, 04. All right, well, hey, what time is it? We got about 5 minutes left. How old's your kid, dude?
He's 4.
You have a 4-year-old. I have a 7-year-old nephew. It's insane.
Yeah, they grow quick.
Congrats.
Thank you.
What sort of children's programming are you watching?
Well, one show that we really like to watch together is Gravity Falls.
I don't know what that is.
It's kind of like a kid's version of Rick and Morty.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a good show though. I like it. But yeah, I mean, I've watched every Pixar movie, every Toy Story, every Cars. He's really big on cowboy stuff. He loves cowboy stuff though.
Interesting. Yeah, Pixar movies adults can watch Pixar movies.
Yeah.
There's always some sort of a heart-tugging message with the Pixar movies.
Or a great hidden joke that only adults would get.
That makes sense, yeah. And they're always pushing some sort of they're not really an agenda, but there's always like a message, like in WALL-E, the message is don't fuck up the planet.
I love that movie.
It's great. So fuck, man. 20 years of the Koffin Kats in what month of 2003?
June.
What are your plans?
So that was one of the other things that went on during COVID is I took our studio from where we had in the print shop. I had built a studio there, And then we were going to try to sell the building because we needed some more funds to happen during the COVID times. So I didn't want to have my studio going while we were in the middle of a sale. So I took everything and brought it over to my house, and I built out half of my basement, like put double drywall up, did the floating walls, all that kind of shit, like actual like studio build. And so now that's what I have down here. And we're going to utilize it here soon and start recording. We want to do 12 to 14 new tracks, and then release in the beginning of next year, release 6 songs. And then towards the end of the year, release another 6 songs as like a 20-year thing.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Possibly release the first album on vinyl as well. But vinyl is a little bit expensive to front, so we'll see how funds go at that point in time.
What's the first album called again? Is it just Koffin Kats?
It was just called Koffin Kats, yeah.
Okay, and that's the one with V8 Nightmare on it and Graveyard Tree, right?
Yep.
Okay, and what year did that come out?
That was 2003. That was like the end of 2003 because we went and recorded it that fall when we got together. That's
crazy. Now, the band V8 Nightmare, did the band V8 Nightmare before Koffin Kats play the song V8 Nightmare?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I had written, in fact, the band before V8 Nightmare, Mephisto Mafia, I actually wrote Chainsaw Massacre and V8 Nightmare, which would later go on to be on the Koffin Kats CDs. I wrote those songs, and the Graveyard Tree song. I wrote those in that band. Okay. And then when the band dissolved, I just took those songs with me.
Do you get sick of playing any of these songs that you wrote 20 years ago?
No. I mean, how do I put it? It's not autopilot, but it's like I have playing the songs that you've been playing for that long. It allows you to have more fun on stage because they just naturally fall out of you. Yeah. So you can enjoy your stage, what's going on around you. Because like not that I go in robot mode, but like any of those songs that click in, I'm like, all right, this is naturally just happening here, and I can kind of goof around and see what's going on, and you know, I don't know.
That's
I actually like playing those songs because it gives me a breather for the songs that come later in the set that I actually like, oh shit, don't fuck this up. Like Maneater, I always manage to flub that bass line once in a while. So that's and vocally, that's what I was like, I have this thing with every album we do. I try to push myself vocally a little bit more and more and more. And especially with this last album that we did, I was like, you don't hit those notes live, but you will have to now. And yeah.
That's what you were just saying about like if you play a song that many times, it flows out of you. You don't even have to think about it. That's something. That's something that I kind of just have taken for granted. Actually, now that I think about it, because I'm like, I tell people, I'm like, I'm sick of playing this one song. I play it 500 times, but it's like when I play that song, I literally can like do my taxes while I'm playing that song, right? Because I'm just like I'm in it. I've played this so many times. Like this is a part of me, you know.
Absolutely.
I like that. Okay. Okay. Downtown Brown's not quitting. Okay. I just got inspired. Thanks, bro. No, I got another thing that I'm going to do for a minute, but you never know.
You guys had a great run, and you were able to, I mean, you definitely were able to make a lot out of 20 years of playing. And I mean, shit, you guys were backing up HR. How cool is that? You know?
Yeah, it was pretty sick. That was pretty amazing. Yeah, driving around with HR is a thing, because it's one thing driving around with your buddies, but when you're driving around with like a beloved figure in the sitting shotgun, and you're like, don't kill this guy. You know what I mean? Like, you ever done that mountain pass going from Lake Tahoe to Sacramento?
Oh yeah.
I did that drive with HR, and it was fucking nerve wracking. He was like holding on to the oh shit bar. And I'm like, got both hands on the wheel. I'm like, don't kill HR. It was like, because it's one thing if I fly through the windshield, but if you're the guy that kills HR or Bad Brains, that's not a good look, man.
Yeah. Storms don't seem to want to hit those passes unless, bands are on tour and passing over them.
It's like clockwork, man. Well, hey, I got to go meet this dude. I could talk to you for a really long time, but I appreciate the stories?
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. And
yeah,
this shelter show coming up is going to be awesome, and it's going to be great to be back in the shelter. It's been a few years since we've been on stage there, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great night.
I saw you guys opening for Buzzcocks there, and I don't know what it was about that night, but it was one of the loudest shows I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, it shook my guts.
That was one of our very first shows, and we happened to get lucky and got asked to be on the bill, and I was like, holy shit, we're playing the shelter, and holy shit, we're opening for Buzzcocks.
Yeah, that's a great feeling, especially because it seems to me like you were going to a lot of shows when you were young. Like you got upset.
Oh, yeah.
You were going to Pharaoh's and all that shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so the first time my band played the shelter, we were opening for a band called the Gadgets, and I think they were on Hellcat. They were like a national act, but they weren't really big. But just the idea of playing that room was like mind-blowing to me. I remember I jumped up and down when we got the gig. I'm like, we're playing the fucking shelter, because the first punk show I ever saw that wasn't at Pharaoh's was Assorted Jelly Beans and Guttermouth at the shelter, and it was in 1996, and that shit changed my fucking life. So to be playing that room, now I'm just like, oh, we're playing the shelter again. But back then in 2002, when we first played, it was a big deal, man.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is too, though, is that with this many years under your belt, I mean, both our belts, I guess, it is cool to look back, and be like, shit, 20 years have gone by, and here we are playing this stage right now, and it's cool to reflect at this point, and that we're both still here and both still doing it,
Yeah, a lot of people didn't make it. That's something I think about. There's, I didn't think I'd make it past 30, honestly. I was drinking tough. And
yeah, same here.
Yeah, I was making a lot of bad decisions with my health, and now I'm fucking 40. I'm old enough to have back problems. So
yeah.
Yay me.
But it's one of those situations though where it's like, you get asked, you're like, oh, would you ever change anything about your past? And you're like, regardless of how bad things were at some points, it's kind of like, I don't think I would, because who knows if you'd actually still be here doing it. If you could go back and fix those things that you did in your 20s and got too crazy sometimes. And,
I feel like it was all a learning experience. Like,
yeah. And that's exactly what it was.
And, yeah, I learned, bro. Well, I gotta go, man.
Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to August 6th at the shelter.
It's funny because we're kind of in the same city. Like, we're both in Metro Detroit, but we're doing the remote thing.
Yeah,
it's convenient though. Like if you came over here, you'd have to vacuum or something. You give me
where are you at exactly?
Madison Heights.
Okay,
right by the Telway.
I'm over in Livonia, so
what's up? West Side. I grew up in Northville, so yay.
Okay. Yeah.
Fucking L-Town. Well, hey man, I'll see you on the 6th. I'm really stoked you guys are doing the show. Thanks for telling me so much about your band and you, bro. And,
yeah, man.
And I appreciate that you thought I was good, like back then or something. That's cool.
Yeah, that's no joke. I remember that night at Pharaoh's going, fuck, I'm not gonna be that good on guitar.
Cause bro, I remember when I was like in middle school, seeing high schoolers play their instruments and how impactful it was. So I mean, I know I'm only a couple years older than you, but you don't realize, and you probably, for so many people, like there's kids that are watching Koffin Kats and just like, I want to fucking do that. And you can't really see that. It's just something you hear later,
Yeah, it's one of those things you never take it for granted. You're just like, really? Me? Okay.
That's fucking dope, man. Well, shit, I'm gonna let you go, but congrats with everything. And I don't want to sound weird, but I'm really proud of you, and you're really a big inspiration to me, and have always been for fucking years. So thanks.
Right on, man. That's awesome to hear, man. So I look forward to August 6th, man. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be an awesome night.
Get real sweaty and shit. All right, I'm gonna hit this button. Vic, thank you.
Right.
Hey, real quick, anything else to plug?
No, not at this time. We got some stuff coming up, but that's later in the fall time and whatnot. So no, all I care about right now is August 6th at the shelter, having a blast.
I love it. All right, August 6th. We'll see you there. Thanks, Vic.
Later, dude.
I'm gonna hit this button.
All right.
Peace, bro. Hey, do you like this video? Do you want to see more stuff like it? Well, consider being a patron of my Patreon page, patreon.com/Neil P. If you pledge monthly, you get some perks, you get some exclusive content, and you get to help stuff like this get made on the monthly. Yo, check it out.